My name is Mercy, and this is the story of my life. If you have ever loved someone so much that you forgot yourself, then you will understand me. But tell me honestly if the person who sacrificed everything for one day looks at you and says, "I don't know you," what would you do? Would you remind them who you are, or would you walk away quietly before your heart breaks completely? I was not born into a life of love. I was born into survival. My mother, blessing, was a strong woman, but life did not treat her kindly. She sold food by the roadside every day, from morning till night, just to make sure we ate. My father, Jacob, was a mechanic, but work was not steady, and when money was not coming in, his frustration filled the house. I grew up learning how to stay quiet, how to avoid trouble, how to act like everything was okay even when it was not. Some nights there was food, some nights there was not, and on those nights my mother would pretend she was not hungry so I could eat. That was the kind of love I knew: sacrifice without complaint, pain without noise. By the time I was 10, I was already working with my mother, standing under the sun calling customers. Learning how to survive instead of learning in a classroom, I watched other children go to school with clean uniforms and happy faces, but I did not envy them. I had already accepted that my life was different. I told myself as long as we survived, that was enough, but life does not stop testing you just when you think you were strong enough. When I was 15, my mother became sick. At first it was small. She complained of tiredness, but she still worked because we had no choice then. It became worse. She could not stand for long. She could not go to the market like before, and slowly everything started falling apart. I tried to take over her work. I pushed myself harder than ever, but I was still just a girl trying to carry responsibilities meant for someone much older. My father became distant during that time. Sometimes he would leave the house for days and come back like nothing happened, leaving me alone with my sick mother and the fear of losing her. I remember the day she died like it was yesterday. It was quiet, too quiet. I called her name, but she did not answer. I touched her, but she did not move. Something inside me broke in that moment, but I did not cry. Not because I was strong, but because I had already learned that crying changes nothing after her death. The house became empty. My father. It became even colder, and I knew if I stayed there, I would lose myself completely. So, at 17, I left. I did not have a plan. I did not have anyone waiting for me. I just knew I had to go. I moved to Surler and started working at a small food shop, washing plates, serving customers, doing anything just to survive. The work was hard, the pay was small, but I endured because that was all I knew how to do. After some time, I started saving little by little until I could afford a small fabric stall. In the market, it was not big, but it was mine, and for the first time in my life I felt like I had something I could call my own. My life became simple: wake up early, go to the market, sell fabrics, smile even when I was tired, go back home and repeat. There was no space for dreams, no time for love. I had trained myself to focus only on survival until the day I met him. It was raining heavily that afternoon, the kind of rain that makes everyone run for shelter. I was trying to cover my fabrics with my small umbrella when I saw him standing in the rain, not moving, not running, just standing there like he had nowhere to go. I don't know why, but I called out to him, "Hey, why are you standing there?" He looked at me like he was surprised someone noticed. "I'm fine," he said, but he was not fine. "Come here," I said, "before you get sick." He hesitated, but then he walked towards me, and we stood under the same small umbrella, too close, but neither of us moved away. "My name is David," he said. After a moment, "I'm Mercy," I replied. There was a short silence. Then I asked him, "What do you do?" He smiled slightly. "I'm trying to become something." I almost laughed. "That's not a job," I said. He laughed too. "I make music," he said, "or at least I'm trying." To that moment should have ended there, just two strangers sharing shelter from the rain, but something about him stayed with me, not because he had anything, but because he believed in something, and I had spent my whole life just trying to survive. I had never met someone who was chasing something bigger than their situation. We started talking more. After that, simple conversations turned into something deeper. David did not have stability. His life was uncertain, but he had passion, and somehow I found myself drawn to it. "You work too much," he told me one evening, "and you dream too much." I replied, "Someone has to be realistic." He looked at me seriously. "What if I make it one day?" I paused, then said quietly, "Then I will say, I knew you before." the world did not know that those words would one day come back to hurt me. As time passed, I became more involved in his life. I supported him, encouraged him, believed in him, even when nothing was working, but slowly, without realizing it. Started giving more of myself, my time, my energy, my savings, because loving David was not easy. It required patience, sacrifice, and belief, even when there was no proof things would work out. But I had been trained by life to endure, so I kept giving. Without asking for anything in return, I did not know it then, but the same strength that helped me survive my past was the same strength that would one day break me, because sometimes the more you give, the more invisible you become. And the boy I met in the rain, the one with nothing but a dream, was slowly becoming someone who might one day look at me and say he does not know me. Life with David did not change overnight. It changed slowly in ways I did not notice at first, until one day I realized everything was different. His music started getting attention. The first time a small blog shared his song, I was the one who showed him. I remember how his eyes lit up, how he kept refreshing his phone, reading every comment, every message. Every new follower, like each one, meant something deeper than just numbers. I was happy for him, I truly was, because I remembered where we started. I remembered the rain, the hunger, the long nights, and the quiet struggles. But even in that happiness, I noticed something small, something I did not understand at the time. He started caring more about how people saw him than how he felt about himself. And that was the beginning of everything changing. He began to spend more time on his phone, replying messages, networking, talking to people. I did not know people who suddenly mattered more than the life we had built together. At first I told myself it was normal, this was what success looked like, this was the price of growth. But as days turned into weeks, I started feeling the distance. The calls became shorter, the laughter we once shared became rare, the little things that made us feel close began to disappear, and I found myself holding on to memories more than moments. He started traveling more, shows here, interviews there, collaborations with people who spoke big English and wore expensive clothes, and every time he left, he promised he would call, but promises slowly became excuses, and excuses slowly became silence. I would sit alone in the small room we once shared, waiting, staring at my phone, hoping it would light up with his name. Sometimes it did, but most times it did not. And when it did, the conversations felt rushed, like I was just another task he needed to complete before moving on to something more important. I tried to stay strong. I tried to remind myself that I believed in this dream before anyone else, that I was part of this journey. But the truth is, the more he grew, the smaller I felt. His world was expanding, and mine was staying the same. I was still in the market, still waking up early, still struggling under the sun, while his life was moving into places I could not reach. I began to notice new people around him. His manager, Alex, became someone he spoke to almost every day, sometimes even more than he spoke to me. There were new friends, new faces always laughing around him, always present in his pictures, always part of his growing success, and I was not there, not even once at first. I ignored it. I told myself I did not need to be seen. I did not need the spotlight, but deep down it hurt more than I wanted to admit, because I knew the truth. I had been there when there was nothing, and now that there was something, I was nowhere to be found. One evening he returned from a show, and I went to meet him. I was excited. I had missed him. I thought he would feel the same, but when he saw me, his reaction was not what I expected. He smiled quickly, like he was trying to remember something, then looked away, his attention already somewhere else. I stood there feeling awkward, like I did not belong beside him anymore. He introduced me to someone briefly. "This is Mercy," he said casually, like I was just a name, not a story, not a part of his journey, just a name. I forced a smile, but inside something broke quietly. We got into the car and drove home. He spent most of the ride on his phone, replying messages, laughing softly at things I could not see. I tried to talk about my day, about the market, about small things that used to matter to us, but he barely responded, and when he did, it felt distant, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. That night I lay beside him, but it felt like I was lying next to a stranger. I stared at the ceiling, asking myself the same question again and again. When did we become like this? When did I start feeling alone in a relationship I fought so hard to keep alive? Days passed and things did not get better. They got worse. His name started appearing everywhere. People talked about him, his songs played on the radio, his face showed up online, and everyone was proud of him. Everyone except me not. Because I was not proud, but because I was losing him at the same time. I was watching him become everything he ever dreamed of, while slowly losing the person who helped him get there. The most painful part was not what he did, but what he stopped doing. He stopped asking about me, he stopped checking on me, he stopped seeing me, and slowly, I realized he was forgetting, not completely, not suddenly, but little by little, like I was fading out of his memory, one conversation at a time, one missed call at a time, one silent night at a time. I overheard people talk about him one day at the market. They were praising him, talking about his rise, his talent, his story, and then one of them asked, "Does he have a girlfriend?" Someone laughed and said, "If he does not show her." I felt my chest tighten, but I said nothing. I just stood there listening, as strangers discussed the man I once knew like he was a story they owned. I went home that day feeling empty, and when I saw him later, I wanted to ask him everything. I wanted to remind him of who I was to him, but when I looked at him, I saw someone different, someone who no longer needed reminders, someone who had already moved forward without me, and still I stayed, because love does not leave easily, especially when it is built on sacrifice. I told myself maybe things would change, maybe he would remember, maybe he would come back to the person I knew, but deep down I felt the truth settling in my heart. He was changing, and I was not part of that change. The nights became longer, the silence became louder, and the distance became impossible to ignore, until one night everything became clear. He came home late, excited, talking about a new deal, a new opportunity, a new step forward. I tried to share his excitement. I really did, but as he spoke, I realized something. He never once looked at me like I mattered in that moment. I was just there, not part of the celebration, not part of the journey, just someone in the room, and that was when it finally hit me. The person I had sacrificed everything for was slowly forgetting me, not because he hated me, not because I did anything wrong, but because his world had grown, and I no longer fit into it. I remembered the envelope of money I gave him, the long days in the market, the hunger, the pain, the belief I carried for him when no one else did. And I asked myself quietly, did any of it matter to him anymore? Or was I just a chapter he had already closed? The truth hurt more than anything I had ever felt before, because it was not loud, it was not dramatic, it was quiet and steady, like something fading away. And I knew then that this was only the beginning of something worse. The real betrayal had not even happened yet, but I could feel it coming like a storm I could not stop. And the man I once loved, the man I once believed in with everything I had, was slowly becoming someone who might one day look at me and not remember my name. Everything finally broke the night I heard him say he did not know me. It was not a dream. It was not a misunderstanding. It was real, and it happened in front of people, cameras, lights, and voices calling his name. I had gone to his biggest show yet, the one everyone was talking about, the one that proved he had finally made it. I stood at the back like I used to in the beginning, not because I could not afford a better place, but because that was where I felt I belonged in his story somewhere. Behind the spotlight, watching from a distance, I waited for him after the show, my heart beating fast, my hands slightly shaking, not from fear but from hope. Hope that maybe this time he would see me properly, that maybe this time he would remember everything we had been through together. When he finally stepped out, surrounded by people's security friends and new faces, I moved closer, calling his name softly at first, then louder, "David." He turned and looked at me for a moment. Just a moment. Our eyes met, and for that second I thought everything would come back. I thought he would smile. I thought he would walk toward me and hold me the way he used to, but instead he frowned, slightly, like he was trying to recognize a face he had seen somewhere before. "Who is that?" he asked the people around him, and in that moment something inside me stopped completely. I felt my chest tighten, my breath caught halfway, like my body refused to accept what I had just heard. One of the people beside him shrugged, saying maybe she is just a fan, and he nodded casually before turning away. Like it did not matter, like I did not matter. I stood there frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to even cry, because the pain was too deep, too sudden, too heavy to come out as tears. It was not just heartbreak, it was erasure. Everything I had given, everything I had been, everything we had shared, reduced to nothing in a single sentence. "I don't know her," Those words echoed in my head over and over again, louder. Then the music, louder than the crowd, louder than everything. I walked away slowly, not because I wanted to, but because my legs could not hold me. Any longer, each step felt heavy, like I was dragging the weight of every sacrifice I had ever made behind. I did not go home immediately. I walked through the streets without direction, without purpose, just trying to understand. How someone could forget so completely, how someone could rise so high and leave behind the very person who helped them stand. I thought about going back, confronting him, reminding him of everything, but something inside me stopped me, not pride, not anger, just clarity. I finally saw the truth clearly. He did not forget by accident, he let go by choice. Days passed and I did not hear from him, not a call, not a message, not even a sign that he realized what had happened. That silence hurt almost as much as the moment itself, because it confirmed everything. It told me that I was no longer part of his world, not even as a memory. I returned to my life, slowly going back to the market, reopening my stall, smiling at customers like nothing had changed, but everything had changed inside me. I was no longer the same person who believed that love meant giving everything. I had learned the hard way that love, without respect, without recognition, without balance, can destroy you completely. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. I saw him again, but this time it was different. He was not on stage. He was not surrounded by people. He was alone, sitting quietly in his car outside the market. I almost walked past him, but he called my name, Mercy. I froze. The sound of my name and his voice felt strange, like something from another life. I turned slowly and looked at him properly for the first time since that night, and I saw something I had not seen before. Uncertainty. He stepped out of the car and walked toward me slowly, like he was not sure if he should come closer. I watched him carefully, waiting for him to speak, waiting for him to explain, waiting for him to say something that would make sense of everything. But when he finally spoke, his words were not what I expected. I have been trying to remember, he said quietly. Remember what I asked? My voice calm but distant. He looked at me like someone searching for something lost, something important, something just out of reach. He said. I felt a mix of emotions rise inside me, anger, pain, disbelief, and something else, something softer, but I pushed it down because I knew better now. What do you mean you were trying to remember me? I asked. He ran his hand through his hair, looking frustrated, like he was fighting something inside his own mind. Ever since that night, I keep seeing your face in my head. I keep hearing your voice, but I cannot place it. I cannot connect it, and it is driving me crazy. I stared at him, trying to understand what he was saying. Are you telling me you truly do not remember me? I asked slowly. He shook his head. Not completely. Not clearly. It is like pieces are missing, like my past has holes in it. I feel like I know you, but I cannot explain how or why. His words felt unreal, like a twist I did not see coming. This was not just betrayal. This was something deeper, something strange, something that made me question everything I thought I understood. I looked at him carefully, and for the first time, I saw it clearly, the confusion, the frustration, the emptiness behind his eyes, and in that moment, I realized something shocking. David did not just forget me. He had lost something inside himself. Something that success could not replace, something that money, fame, and recognition could never bring back. He had lost his past, and with it, he had lost me. Distance between us, and spoke calmly. You did not just forget me, David. You forgot the person who stood by you when you had nothing. You forgot the one who believed in you. Before anyone else, you forgot the one who gave you everything, and now you stand here asking me to help you remember. I paused, letting the words settle between us. He looked at me with pain in his eyes, like he understood the weight of what I was saying, even if he could not fully remember it. Please, he said softly, help me understand. Help me remember. I looked at him for a long moment, thinking about everything, the past, the pain, the sacrifices, the night he erased me, and the silence that followed. And in that moment, I made a decision that changed everything. I shook my head slowly. No, I said quietly. His face fell in confusion and hurt. Why, he asked. Because, I replied calmly, remembering me will not change what you became. You forgot me when it mattered most, not just in your mind, but in your choices and your actions. In your silence, I took a deep breath and continued, you did not need memory loss to erase me. You were already doing it long before that night he stood. There silent, unable to respond, and for the first time, I felt something I had not felt in a long timepiece, not because the pain was gone, but because I finally chose myself over someone who had forgotten my worth. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there with questions he might never fully answer, and as I walked back to my stall, I realized something powerful. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not proving your worth to someone who forgot you. It is choosing to move forward without them and building a life where their absence no longer defines you. My name is Mercy, and this is the story of how I lost everything for love and found myself in the process.